Hi everybody, so today I'm doing the video number 1 for the Newbie's Guide to how to keep the fish. So what we're going to start with today is the things that I think you need to think about before you start. If you've already gone in hard, you know, and you've got a tank and you've got a few fish, listen anyway, because you might learn something that you might find useful. So, for argument's sake, you've seen a cheap tank like the one behind me, which I'll do the third video for that one soon. If you want to keep fish, decide what sort of fish you'd like to keep and research them. You need to know, are they freshwater, are they marine, are they cold, you know, like goldfish, are they cold water, are they tropical or subtropical. Some fish in New Zealand are sold as cold water, but they're actually subtropical. So for argument's sake, your mountain minnows and your paradise fish are subtropical. So that means you can keep them outside during the summer, so from November through till end of February, but the rest of the year they don't need a heater, but you do need to keep them inside so they don't go below probably 14 degrees. So in your, okay, I'll say reasonably nice house that you've rented, if it is fully insulated, you should be fine. If you're in an older type house, which I've lived in a few, that are not insulated, you might need to pop a heater in just to keep it above the 12-14 degrees, or they will die. Okay, so you need to find out whether the fish you want to keep are aggressive or are they placid. Are they easy care or are they hard to keep? Because there are a lot out there that are more work than others. As you all know, I have guppies. They are freshwater, tropical, relatively placid, easy care. They're pretty cool, nice and easy. There's lots of things you can stick with them, and there's heaps of colours, so that's why I love them. What substrate do they prefer? Do most people keep them with nothing in the bottom? There's a few fish that do prefer that. Do they like pebbles? Do they like large rocks? Do they prefer sand? Now sand, do not go get sand off the beach, because it's got far too much salt in it, unless you're going to put it in a container and leave it there and do water changes every week for the next 3 months type thing. I use a lot of sand. I'm naughty. I do get it out of a local creek, just a little bit at a time. I do go and pinch a bit. That's fine. You do run the risk of a few parasites and little things like that. I've never had a major problem with it. I do worm my fish regularly. I'll leave that for another video. I will check with the guy that I can give you his details. I don't use stuff from the shop. I don't use, I've heard Dontrel dog wormer works. I haven't tried that myself. I probably will this year give it a go just to see how well it works. Anyway, so do you need pebbles? Do they prefer sand? Do they prefer nothing at all? For example, my husband said he had Oscars that would pick up the pebbles and throw them at the front of the tank, and they can smash your tank. So these are things you need to look at. Guppies, they don't really care. They'll have pebbles, nothing at all, sand, whatever. They're not really worried. How big do they get? You know, guppies only grow yay big. They're little. They're a little fish. You can have a lot of them in a smaller tank. But things like angels, you buy them from the shop and they're only, you know, 4 or 5 centimeters. They're gonna be huge. They are aggressive. See a lot being rehomed. Okay, how much room do they need? Guppies don't need much room at all. As I've said in previous videos, a 60 litre bin ends up with 250 guppies in it. They bred that far, that's what they did. Not saying you should all do that. Do they breed easily? When I say that, guppies, they breed very easily. Don't ask the question, are they pregnant? The females are pregnant. They're always pregnant, and they drop their fry every month. If you don't see any, it's because they're eating them. So, do they breed easily? For example, the reason I say it is, can you rehome them or sell them easily? I found the bristle nose common plecos breed easily, but very hard to get rid of, especially here in the Bay of Plenty. I've had a batch, it's taken me a whole year to get rid of them all, and I gave most of them away. What do they eat? What do they prefer? Simple things like that. And then there's the pH. What do your fish prefer? For example, if you're looking at cichlids, you're going to have to mess around with pH. Personally, I don't. I do guppies, they don't really care. Normal tap water is usually fine for them, but just look into it. If it's something specialised, maybe think of something a bit easier for your first tank. What tank mates are recommended? For example, if you get a long-finned guppy with a nice big floppy tail, you don't want to put neon tetras in there. They will eat the tails. Little things like that. And then research each of those tank mates. What do they like to eat? How much room do they need? That's what you need to look at. Just write down what sort of fish you think you'd like to keep and do basic research on it. Just so you know you're not going to be that person who goes, oh, I bought blah blah and it's attacking everything. Would anybody like it? Please take it now. So you don't get into that. Okay, my essential list on what you need to buy before you start buying fish. So for argument's sake, okay, this is our argument for the series. You've picked up this tank. They're very common. The following video tells you how to set it up, how to get the filter running. Okay, so your essential list to get started. A suitable sized tank. Hello James. He's always in my videos, isn't he? Now sit down. Okay, so a suitable sized tank. The ones that came up with selling are not recommended really for anything in particular. I found they're really good for putting guppy fry in it, and that works really well. They're not much use for anything else, and they're a lot harder to keep the ammonia and all of that on par, you know, just perfect. A tank this size, 60 to 90 litres, I would recommend as a beginner's. They're not too big, they're not too small, they're really easy. Okay, substrate. You need to get your gravel or sand. Cheap gravel, go to Bunnings. Get a bag from Bunnings. But do not buy the white chip. It's like a sharp white chippy stuff. Okay, that's limestone. It will completely mess your water up. They've got a beautiful white round pebble, really nice. I'd like to get some of that. That stuff's fine. Any other pebbles, just not the one that looks like it's been smashed up with sharp edges. Doesn't say that it's limestone. That's Bunnings that have said that to the guys that bag it up. They don't want it with limestone written on it. Who knows why? Bunnings, this is stupid. Don't do this. I fell for that. I did get 2 bags of it. It does mess with your pH. It's not good. Okay, so then you need to look at filtration. These come with filtration. They're great. So you don't need to worry about that as long as all the pieces are there. If you're missing bits, put a message. I'll give you some ideas on how you can DIY it up, and you can get replacement parts for these. Now if you've got this tank, you don't necessarily have to get an air pump with air stone. You don't need that because it drops the water and gives you enough water movement. But if you've got a normal tank like that one there with big goldfish in, either you're going to have a mechanical filter or you can use an air pump with sponge filters. I'll do more on that another day. I use them with my fry tanks. They work really well. Okay, food. You're going to have to decide what you're going to feed. Get a bit of a range. You know, you can start with one. Another month get another one. If you've only got one tank, you're going to end up with a lineup of little different foods. They like variety. It's good for them. Plants. Okay, plastic or live. Now I've got a mix in this tank for the demo. It is plants that I have collected from the local river. Yes, it is naughty, but I do not propagate it. I do not sell it. It grows. I trim it back. I throw it in the compost bin. It's never going to get back in the waterways from me. It's just, I'm very careful about that. I know they're not supposed to collect it, but for starting out, it's a cheap way to start. Plastic plants. You can get them from the pet shops. your local vets, etc. I tend to actually get them from the cheapy shop, now what was used to be called the $2 shops. Now I have not, personally, I haven't had any problems with them leaching anything into my tanks. I've had no issues with it. I will do maybe a video on the ones that I've got and that I use. You can use them. Give them a good wash when you get them home. Some warm soapy water, rinse them really well, make sure all that soap's off, just in case someone in the shop has maybe sprayed fly spray. Okay, it'll take off any residues on that. Way cheaper than the ones from the pet shop. It's pretty much the same stuff. Okay. Huge one. Oh my god, guys, you have to get a gravel siphon. Okay, this is a number one. You must get one because you use it with your water changes to pull all the dirt, fish poo, and all that grotty stuff out of your gravel. And if you're using sand, it'll sit across the top, depending on what grade of sand you're using. It's a must. If you don't, doesn't matter how many water changes you're going to do, unless you can do it every day, you're going to get ammonia spikes. Okay, it's a must. You can grab them second hand, keep your eyes out, look on Trade Me, or invest in a new one. Either way, get one. Now this one sounds a bit silly. A bucket. Get a bucket, write on it, fish only. Don't use it to wash the floors or anything else. Make sure that it never gets any other chemical in it. No cleaning products, no, you know, don't grab it to mop the floor. It's just for your fish tank. You can use it for quarantining, or, you know, you got that one fish that's not looking quite right, hospital tank, instead of buying another whole tank, use your bucket. Then you're going to use it for doing water changes, whatever. Okay, you're also going to need to get a heater if your fish are tropical, or like I was talking about, subtropical, if your house is going to be extremely cold in winter. You know, we know that's a Kiwi thing, very cold houses that we rent. Okay, and a net. Get a small net. $2 shops have them. They're $2 to $3. Grab a couple though. Grab two. Why? If you have dogs or cats or children, they will put holes in it. Have a spare one. Very handy. Okay, chlorine remover. When you do a water change, you use the chlorine remover to remove the chlorine. If you don't, it can cause big problems and your fish can die. Now, I personally use vitamin C tablets. I will put some info in the links down below. The chlorine is removed by vitamin C. Now, I've been using this for a couple of months. I got the idea from one of the importers. He's been doing it for a few years. He said his fish have never been healthier. Mine have been healthier since switching. A lot of the stuff from the pet shops will have keep out of reach of children written on them, because they will make your kids extremely sick if they get it and drink it. This includes your pets, everything. Vitamin C tablet, if they eat one, it's not a biggie. It's not a big deal. If you watch a few videos, if they eat the whole packet, it can be a bit dangerous. But, you know, it's a lot safer and a lot cheaper. So a tank this size with a full water change, quarter of a tablet. So when I do my normal water changes, I'll do quarter of a tablet and pour the rest into the other tanks. I do have one regular customer, and she's doing it now. She makes her Barocca, does her water change, bloop, bit into the tank, no chlorine, and drinks the rest herself. Great. I'll do a more in-depth video on that later, explaining more how it works and how much to use. But very basically, you pretty much can't overdose them. You know, make your cup of Barocca, just give them a slurp, you're all good. Get a thermometer. Now you can get the ones from the pet shops, they're not overly expensive. I use one from the cheapy shop on the wooden board. It was like $3. It sits in my fish room on the wall, so I can see how warm my room is, and I just drop it in the tank when I need to check what the temperature is. Get a full plug multi-board. You'll see up there, you're going to have your filter, your light, possibly your thermometer, your heater, and you might have an air pump. So that's 4. yeah, just go get one. Again, cheapy shop will do. Okay, now additional stuff. You don't need this straight away, but as you can afford to, grab these little pieces as well. The magnet stick on so you can scrub your tank, grab one of those, or if you've got a glass tank, you can just use a razor blade. Okay, you can get them from the GP shop, and that will scrape off any algae. I only do the fronts of my tanks. I leave the algae on the back so that my fish will eat it. I've got a few plecos still, and I've got cories, and they eat it as well. I only do the front. That's personal choice. Okay, get more plants. Get more plants. Plants roll. Live ones are great. Yeah, get more plants. You'll see them on Facebook. You'll see them on Trade Me really cheap. There'll be people that have just done a trim in their tank and want to give away a bucket full. Go grab it. Especially if you're doing guppies, you can't have too many plants. And if you do have too many plants, you can put the rest on Facebook and give them to somebody else. Or sell them. I sell a few. Driftwood. Okay, I love driftwood. I think it's brilliant. As you'll see in this tank, there is a lot of driftwood in there. I do collect it off the beach. All I do is I have a 200 litre drum out on my back lawn. It is fed off one of my downpipes, and I usually throw it in there for 2 or 3 months, usually because I forgot about it. Now if it doesn't sink, don't stick it in your tank. It's just going to float. Don't worry about it. If you pick up 5 or 6 pieces, a couple might float, the rest you throw in your tank. All I do is give it a good scrub down, soak it for a month or 2. Some people will say boil it. I can't be faffed. Most pieces I get are too big to fit in a, in a pot anyway. Throw it in a tub, ignore it for a while. You're all good. Because it's sitting in fresh water. I've never had a problem. That's my system. It works. Okay, you can get ornaments. You can get some pretty cool stuff. Let's see if I can reach this. This is one, if I can get it out. Oh, it's sitting behind me. Okay, my son bought this. It's pretty cool. It's massive. Again, watch out on Facebook. You'll find this stuff cheap. He bought this from the shop. Sorry, Wes. It's not going in my tank. Maybe later, but not right now. A lot of tanks will be given away with ornaments. Just give them a scrub. A good old toothbrush. Old toothbrush, get in there and give it a good scrub up. They're fine. You can use some from the $2 shop, but just be really careful. If they've been painted, they may not be safe in your tank. But you can give it a try. That's up to you. I don't really use a lot of ornaments as such. I've never bought any. I prefer driftwood. Okay, medications. Now I'm not going to name any specific brand because there's so many out there. It is what it is. There's lots out there. Salt. There's a lot of arguments about whether you're using iodized salt. I've actually done research on it, and research papers that I've read has proven that it actually makes no difference to your fish. I use sea salt from the supermarket. Silly fly. It comes in useful. Yep, have a bit of salt. You've probably got it in your kitchen anyway. Use that when necessary. Get a bottle that will clean up fungal issues, and there'll be another one for doing bacterial issues. They're usually $6 or $7 for a little bottle. Get them as soon as you can afford to. Put them in the cupboard away from your kids. You'll end up using them eventually, and it's better to have them than to find you've got a problem late on Friday night and all the shops are shut, or it's a long weekend or something. It's better to have it sitting there. Fish wormer. Guppies get worms. Okay, so fish wormers, there's a few different brands. I'll post about the wormer that I use, but I'm just going to double check that I can share his information. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. I'll do a full video on that one day. So that's all you need for medications. I believe that's pretty much, that's the basics. There's a lot more you can get as you can afford it if you come up with big problems. We'll do videos on that later. Water test kit. you'll see on every group they rant and rave about getting a test kit. You must have one, rah rah rah. Personally, I have just bought one, but it is the first one I've ever bought, and I've kept fish for 30 years. Not, this is the biggest I've ever gone, but yeah, I've never had one before. Most pet shops will do a test for you, or put it on a local group that you're looking for someone with a test kit. Give them a few bucks for doing it, because they are expensive. Yeah, pay your friends to do it for you, because it does cost a lot to get these kits. I think I spent $105, and that's to test ammonia, nitrates and nitrites. We'll get into all that deep and meaningful when we talk about cycling the demo tank behind us. And the only other thing I would say is lighting. A lot of these you see for sale, the lights are dead. I use waterproof LED strip, which I saw yesterday, and Kmart finally has someone. They're handy, they're quick, they're simple. I don't think it would work on this tank, but anyone with a glass top, you just put them on a board, stick it on top of your tank. I balance mine inside on a couple of pegs because I haven't got around to making a proper lid for it. You could use, you know, those clip-on little lamps for over your work desk. Clip it onto the side of your tank. It's all good. Fish don't actually give a shit about water. The lights, sorry, they don't really care. It's more for us so we can see them. Some fish actually prefer no light because they don't like it at all. Yeah, doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to buy super expensive from the pet shop. They'll try and talk you into it. You don't need those. Even if you've got an old grow light sitting around, use that. Why not? Your plants in the tank will go absolutely mental. My one in the living room has got a grow light across the back and a normal white light across the front. If you use just a grow light, all your fish, the reds and the oranges, just wow, the colour is so bright with the grow light. It's amazing. Anyway, so you don't have to get fancy with your lights. You don't have to. Yeah, if you've seen any of my other videos, I just use a couple of strips of the LED lights over all my tanks. This one, its lights fortunately work. Yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money. So that's my guide today for you on things you need to think about and what you definitely need to buy. I'll recap my top ones, my top 5. Suitable size tank, bigger the better. It is true, the bigger the tank, easier it is to keep the ammonia, nitrates, nitrites under control. Gravel vac, gravel siphon, whatever you want to call it, absolutely essential. And a bucket that does not have chemicals in it, a heater if it's going to be tropical, subtropical, a cold house, and a net. Are you amazed how many people buy some fish and then go, oh, I don't have a net. $2, go and get one. And chlorine remover of some description. That are my number 6. I added the chlorine on the end. 6 top things you need. Okay, if you do those things, you're gonna stay out of trouble as long as you do your water changes regularly. Anyway, that's enough from me today. I hope you like the video. Please like it, share it, subscribe, send it to your mates. Leave some feedback, good or bad, I don't care. The fact that I am sitting in front of my tank, I'm actually sitting on the floor, was feedback from a friend of mine. Said I need better backdrop. So hopefully this tank will soon be up higher, so I'll get better things behind me. So any feedback is appreciated. If you can think of things that I haven't put on this list of essentials, put it in the comments. That'd be much appreciated. Yeah, like, subscribe and all that YouTube stuff, and share this with your friends if they're thinking about getting a tank, because they need to think about these things. Even if they've got that tank and they've got a pile of fish, send them in the video so they can just think about a few extra things that will help those fish last a lot longer. Anyway, have a nice day and have a happy fishy day. Bye.